The duel continues, with Kael and the rival testing each other's limits. Celine and Ignis wait for the perfect moment to strike. Subscribe to Turmoil Studio to follow the story. The alarm did not sound. It hesitated. In the northern district of Terenfall, stone trembled not from collapse, not from chaos, but from weight. A single step landed beyond the outer barricade, and the vibration traveled through foundation and street alike, echoing beneath the city like a second heartbeat. The doctrine detected impact. It calculated breach probability. It delayed by half a second. Beyond the walls, Dravok emerged from the forest like a moving siege engine. His armor was layered in shadow-forged plating, veined with dull crimson fractures, each fissure pulsing faintly as if something inside him burned against its cage. Fallen knights followed in disciplined silence, blades angled downward, movements precise and unhurried. This was not an assault. It was evaluation. On the ridge above the tree line, Gorath stood still, horned helm fixed toward the city. He did not descend. He observed. Behind him, the darkness shifted, and Obscuron's presence coiled like smoke in unseen currents. The variable must be measured, Obscuron whispered into the night. Dravok rolled his shoulders once, then let it endure. On the northern wall, Kael felt the disturbance before the guards shouted. The city posts beneath his boots staggered just slightly, like a breath caught too long. Lyra appeared beside him without a word. "That's not reconnaissance," she said quietly. Kael's gaze remained fixed beyond the gate. "No," he replied. "It's calibration." The first strike did not hit the gate. Dravok's fist collided with a supply tower along the outer perimeter. Stone fractured outward in a thunderous bloom of dust and splintered timber. The doctrine rerouted defensive shields toward the main entrance too late to matter. Dravok had already stepped aside. He struck again, this time against an empty watch platform. The tower collapsed inward. No soldiers fell. No breach opened. But the city shifted power unnecessarily. In the citadel, Ardent Velen leaned closer to the projection table as patterns began to spike unpredictably. "He isn't attacking infrastructure for access," Velen murmured. "He's forcing response cycles." Grandmaster Theron's hands remained clasped behind his back. "He is mapping reaction time." Outside, fallen knights advanced, but not toward civilians. They severed signal pylons with clean surgical strikes. Communication nodes dimmed. Beacon lights flickered. The doctrine recalculated. Dravok changed pattern. He tore a fractured pillar from the ground and hurled it across a residential quarter, not at homes, but at an empty junction between districts. Shields surged into place where no one stood. A southern patrol rerouted north, leaving a market lane briefly exposed. Confusion spread, not panic, but hesitation. The system was responding, but imperfectly. Kael did not wait for authorization. He stepped onto the wall's edge and dropped. The doctrine hesitated, then followed. Street barricades shifted a fraction of a second before he reached them. A defensive tower rotated, narrowing Dravok's angle of advance. Civilians were guided subtly, almost instinctively away from Kael's path. Dravok saw it immediately. The city was aligning with him. A low laugh rumbled from his chest. "So," he said, voice like grinding stone. "You are the Axis." Kael did not answer. He ran. The collision sounded like metal tearing through thunder. Kael's blade struck the crimson-veined armor across Dravok's chest, sparks flaring outward as shadow metal resisted the impact. Dravok's counterblow crashed down with crushing force. Kael redirected the strike just enough to avoid full fracture, the shockwave ripping apart the archway behind him instead. The doctrine recorded force output, updated structural thresholds. Dravok slammed both fists into the earth. The ground erupted in a circular shockwave that tore outward across stone streets. Windows shattered. 3 buildings along the northern lane collapsed inward before the shields could fully rise. For the first time since its awakening, the city failed to prevent damage. Kael felt it like pain in his own ribs. Dust clouded the air. Civilians scattered along pre-calculated routes. The doctrine rerouted barriers, sealed crossways, redirected foot traffic. Dravok advanced through debris. "You are not fighting me," he growled. "You are fighting delay." Kael stepped forward through falling ash. "Then I'll shorten it." He drove his blade not at Dravok's center but at the glowing fracture along his left pauldron. Steel pierced the fissure. Crimson light flared violently, forcing Dravok half a step backward. Half a step. The doctrine registered vulnerability window. 0.4 seconds during ground. Impact recovery. It adjusted targeting parameters instantly. From the ridge, Garath's grip tightened slightly around his axe. "It learns quickly," he said. Obscuron's shadow shifted, because it listens. Fallen knights surged toward the side district, not wildly, but with exact timing. They cut the final signal beacon feeding the northern shield network. For a breathless second, the city pulse faltered. Kael felt the absence. Not silence, suspension. Dravok swung again, the blow sending Kael crashing through fractured stone. The dust swallowed him. Lyra's breath caught from the wall. Then, movement. Kael rose from the rubble, slower, blood tracing along his temple but standing. The city pulse returned, stronger. Barrier fields stabilized through alternate pathways. Evacuation routes corrected mid-flow. Patrol redeployments synchronized faster than before. Dravok paused. He tilted his head, studying Kael not as prey but as data. "You endure," he said. Kael's voice was steady, despite the tremor in his arm. "So does it." High above, the Skyward Guardian adjusted its wings, probability matrices collapsing and reforming at accelerated speeds. Kael's threat index shifted not as anomaly, not as disruption, but as central node. In the Citadel, Valen stared at the projections. "It's synchronizing," he whispered. Theron's expression hardened. "That is not what we built it to do." On the ridge, Gorath lifted one hand. Dravok halted mid-stride. For a long moment, warrior and titan regarded one another across shattered stone. Then Dravok stepped backward. Fallen knights withdrew in flawless formation, vanishing into the forest, as if the battle had been no more than a survey. "This was not defeat," Dravok called over his shoulder. "It was measurement." The forest swallowed them. Silence settled over Terenfall, broken only by the crackle of settling debris and the distant murmur of redirected civilians. Kael stood in the fractured northern lane. Lyra reached him quickly. "You're hurt." He shook his head faintly. "No," he said, eyes scanning the damaged buildings. "The city is." Beneath his boots, the pulse continued steady, insistent, altered. It no longer merely observed him. It leaned toward him, not as commander, not as weapon, as axis. Beyond the forest, Orion's silhouette appeared briefly beside Kaelin. Their gazes fixed on Kael one last time before turning away. "Response. Time improving," Kaelin murmured. Orion's voice was calm. "Dependency increasing." Obscuron faded into shadow. "The first test is complete." Night deepened over Terenfall. Markets would reopen. Stone would be rebuilt. The doctrine would calculate without rest. But something fundamental had shifted. The system had not broken, it had bonded. And the next test would not measure reaction time. It would measure control. Fade to black. The first light of dawn crept over Terenfall, brushing towers and spires in pale gold. The northern district lay in partial ruin, but its pulse uneven, deliberate beat stronger than before. Kael moved among the rubble, each step measured, listening to the rhythm beneath the stone. The city whispered, but now it seemed to speak with intent. Lyra followed closely, eyes scanning the streets. Every micro-decision, every hesitation. It's still watching, isn't it? Kael nodded. Not just watching, testing, learning. adapting. From the forest, shadows shifted. Dravok's massive silhouette appeared again, this time standing atop a ridge, his armor cracked and glowing from the previous clash, yet unmoved. Behind him, the fallen knights spread like chess pieces, silent and waiting. Kael tightened his grip on his blade. It's a different kind of battlefield now. Beyond the tree line, Obscuron coiled his form, a mass of smoke and darkness, stretching and thinning as if sensing the city's new awareness. He spoke, voice carrying unnervingly across distance. The variable persists, the city bends, but it has yet to break itself. Gorath stepped forward beside him, towering, horned, unyielding. The Axis must prove mastery over both will and environment, he said. Not just endurance. The streets pulsed, walls shifted subtly. Defensive barriers, rising and falling in silent dialogue with Kael's movements. Fountains diverted flow mid-arc. Carts rolled around obstacles that hadn't existed a moment before. Even the wind seemed to adjust course, nudging smoke and dust along paths calculated for minimal disruption. Kael paused on a fractured balcony, gaze sweeping the city. "It's alive," he murmured. "Not in the way we thought. Not a tool. Not a weapon. It's aware." A faint tremor ran through the northern lane. Fallen knights moved again, precise, coordinated, not attacking, but probing. A strike glanced to street corner, forcing a recalibration of a defensive barrier. Another cleared a junction, testing evacuation patterns. Lyra's voice was low. "It's still a test, and we're the instrument." Kael exhaled slowly, scanning the rhythm of the streets. "Then we'll play our part." He ran, leaping over rubble, redirecting the city's pulse with each motion. The doctrine scrambled, trying to predict, to react, but it stumbled against the emergent pattern. Kael's steps became a series of small choices, each a push against the system's calculations. Dravok moved to intercept, his fists like hammers, but Kael sidestepped, letting the city shield his path. A fountain shifted mid-flow, diverting debris. A bridge rotated fractionally every adjustment. A silent response. The pulse beneath Kael's feet, aligned with his own heartbeat. "You are no longer just a hero," Dravok rumbled, voice reverberating through stone and steel alike. "You are the measure." Kael's eyes met Dravok's, unwavering. "And you are the lesson." A subtle wind carried Obscuron's voice, a whisper threading through streets and alleyways. "Observe, adapt, endure. This is the law now." Above, the skyward guardian circled, scanning, recalculating. Its matrices strained against the new variables, yet Kael's presence dominated. The city, aware and responsive, pulsed in tandem with him. Lyra's hand rested lightly on Kael's shoulder. "The first test is over," she said. "But it's not finished." Kael's gaze shifted toward the forest ridge, where Gorath and the silhouettes of other shadows lingered. "No," he replied. "It's just begun. And this time, the Axis fights alongside the city, not against it." A faint hum rose from the streets, not mechanical, not artificial, but resonant. The pulse of Terenfall surged. Every bridge, every alley, every barricade, every citizen moved in subtle synchrony, not ordered, not forced, but chosen. Kael raised his blade. The city around him responded, barriers adjusting, stones shifting, light bending, as if acknowledging his command. The watchers beyond the forest, Obscuron, Gorath, Dravok remained still, studying. Their silence was verdict and calculation. Kael's jaw tightened. "Then let them watch. Let them test. We'll show them what the Axis can do." And somewhere deep beneath the city, the pulse thrummed stronger, awaiting the next movement. The system had not broken. It had evolved.